Okay, well, so yesterday we talked kind of about your childhood and then meeting Grandpa George, moving to Albuquerque. So, what did you value most about being a parent to your daughters? And
Well, for me, being a good parent, raising the kids, the girls, to be upright, honest, sharing, generous. Well, just take care of other people along with yourselves. And the other thing that I would say was having them have respect for themselves, to that they were due respect from other people and not let other people boss them around, or that they were true sharers rather than being shy, retiring flowers. I think I did that. I don't know if you agree, Laura, but
you did not raise any shrinking violet.
I did not, and I didn't want it. That stood up for themselves. My philosophy as I was growing up and maturing was I need to be able to take care of myself in order to take care of somebody else, children, husband, whatever. And so patience, that sort of thing. So you have to have a sense of your own person to be able to do that. But raising the girls was pretty much the whole focus of my life until they were in high school, and they were, I didn't work until 1975. So that was 8 years after we moved here. And
that was when I was a junior in high school.
Yeah.
do you have any memories of them as kids or as teenagers that make you laugh or?
Oh, sure. They reveled because they were able to sneak out at night into the backyard and wherever after that, and I never knew about it. That's that they put it over on me. Martha was Martha was the first one that got caught, mind you, at a high school dance out in the parking lot and drinking beer. And I don't know why I think that Kim Rubish was with her. Couldn't have been. So I don't know. But she did get caught, and I got notified. She also got caught at another time. She was with a boy who happened to have some pot in his car, and they got stopped for whatever reason, I don't know.
They got stopped for drinking.
Drinking.
They took a drink, and there was a police car next to them.
Yeah. So she spent the night in the juvenile detention center.
I didn't know that part of that story.
I don't think she spent the whole night. You guys went and got her. I was here.
Well,
you went and got her. She said it was the quietest ride she'd ever had.
That's true. I guess you're right.
You may have wanted her to spend the night in the detention center, but that isn't what happened.
Well, the result of that, speaking of unintended consequences, she had to attend a course on
Behavior?
Drugs.
drugs. And George and I had to attend it as well. So her consequences spilled over onto us.
And she, just to add to that, she said that while the parents were all learning about drugs, the kids were in the parking lot selling pot to each other.
Well, I don't remember that.
That's because you were in the class, she was with the juvenile delinquents.
So there you go.
So,
Oh, so she was,
what about my mom?
well, shall I say that whatever she did wrong,
She didn't get caught.
she didn't get caught, that's right.
Well, just to ease your mind, I did not smoke pot in high school.
I never thought you did.
I've never been much of a drinker. And one time, we ditched school right before, do you remember when the president came to Albuquerque and our marching band played for When He Came? Anyway, this is kind of a sad thing. I can't remember, I'd have to look up who was the president. And we went to this guy's house and drank some beer, which I've never liked anyway, and we ate Oreo cookies. So
You got sick?
I was drunk, I was sick, I didn't feel good, and then we had to go play at the airport in the band, and yeah. I never rode with anybody who was drinking. I always drove. I was the designated, I mean, they didn't call it that then, but I just never drank.
Mm-hmm.
And a lot of my friends were taking speed in high school. I never did that. I just remember one time Grandpa George at the dinner table said, you guys, you know, I know you're exposed to drugs and marijuana and stuff, and he said, I just want you to look around at this house. He said, if you guys get caught with drugs in this house, this can all go away. And we were all like, and that stuck with me in it, because he said, I can lose my medical license if they find drugs in this house, just to let you know. And then I don't have a medical job, and he said, and that's what I do. And so I never forgot that.
And then you found Leslie smoking pot in a garage or something?
Oh no, they found, Leslie was smoking pot with Nancy at their house, Nancy Stall's house.
Yeah.
Leslie can fill her own, she's here, she can fill her own life story in
Well,
The way she wants it.
if she wants to.
I just think it's not fair if Grandma's only talking about Martha and no one
Oh,
else.
there's stories about Leslie. There's one. So her very good friend, Nancy, and her boyfriend at the time, Greg, they were a little bit rebellious. I don't remember you as being that rebellious. You were the most
I wasn't doing anything.
compliant, or
I mean, I did sneak out at night. I was telling the kids yesterday that Lori Tyne and I used to crawl over that was when the fence around the fairgrounds was a chain link fence, and we used to climb over the fence in the middle of the night and go hang out at the fairgrounds. But all we
you
did,
and who?
Lori Tyne,
I don't even remember.
her mom was a barmaid at the, do you remember her mom was a friend of Dad's she was a barmaid
Oh,
at the Shamrock or something.
Yes.
And he introduced us, and she was trouble, I'll just say.
But you managed to escape
We
that.
didn't do anything over there other than sneak around buildings and stuff. We just,
Oh, that sounds like fun.
it was just kind of weird and scary. And
Yeah.
Well, I remember Mom telling a story of when she spilled ink on her dress.
well, yeah, I was little. That was when we lived in Evansville. And Dad said, "Don't touch anything in this desk." Well, I didn't think he meant anything. And he always used a fountain pen, remember? And he had a bottle of black ink, and it was, I couldn't quite, and I did, and it got all over my dress, and there's no hope for that. So I got in trouble for messing with the stuff in his desk, and I got in trouble for ruining my dress.
There you have it.
I got my stuff out of the way early when I was little. I mean, I could only have been 4 or 5 or 6.
Well, at one time, and this is not a negative thing, but you were wanted to go camping overnight
Oh yeah.
in the mountains with friends that were all boys. And I told her she couldn't go. She argued a bit, then she didn't go. She probably held it against me till now.
I held it against you for years.
Yeah.
I thought that was so ridiculous.
So
John Newell, Carlos Marquez.
I know this really good guys.
In retrospect, maybe maybe I could say, okay, I kind of see your point, and you can say, those are the nicest guys you could ever possibly want to know.
Yeah. But that's different than when you're raising teenagers. They have to know what the rules are, the boundaries. You set boundaries. And there are consequences if you don't. Respect the boundaries. So you never had to face the consequences of that, except mad at me and it was me. It wasn't George, because that was my department.
Yeah, he never.
So, well, we need to get to Leslie and her. Well, one time, and Nancy's parents, he was a state senator.
Whose parents?
Well, it was Nancy Stahl
Was Leslie's friend, or?
that
Okay.
she got into trouble with. She and Greg, her boyfriend. Her parents were, they were politically important. And we had we were not close friends with them, but we were neighbors, so to speak. They just lived around the corner up here. So one time, they went for a joyride out through to Harris Canyon. They had some beer. I don't know if they had anything else they could have. And they happened to roll the car. And so there was a policeman who brought them back. And the Stalls, the parents, were down in Ruidoso. So he brought them back here. They wanted to go to Stahl's house, no parents there, and I said, no way. They're come here. Greg, you go home. Nancy and Leslie, you go back there in the bedroom and don't you come out. So we called the Stalls, and they came back, and they must have driven 100 miles an hour to get back as quick as they did. But it takes a couple of hours from down there. Really, it takes probably 4 if you drive the speed limit. But they were here in a less than that. And they got Nancy, and she went out like this, you know. Leslie was like that in her room. And I don't remember how we may have, what consequences she got out of that. Because I think she got grounded for a while, for sure. And we were a little more followed what they were doing, paid, you know, were a little more restrictive in what they could do with each other.
As
I think it cooled after that.
Don't you think, isn't that when Dad was kind of worried that she was going off the rails, and talked to Jerry Geist and got her that job at P&M in the print department?
It could have been,
And
yeah.
to kind of keep
Well,
her off the street, so to speak.
yeah.
I mean, she was always a really good student.
Oh, yeah.
I mean, she was really, really good. Really good student.
So anyway, she got back on the rails, and we kept encouraging her to go to college. She must have been
She was in high
school she was in high school when that happened, and she graduated a semester early, and I think that's when George got her, you know, got the job offered for her and got her placed, and then she was living at home, and she did get out and into an apartment with a friend. I don't remember the time frames of this because it's too long ago. But she got out and...
Well, she's here. We can ask her.
Yeah, we can fill in that detail. But she... so she worked, and we kept saying, you need to go to college? And she would say, I don't know what I want to do. And we said, it doesn't matter. You just go to college and you just take classes. Just take general education classes and get started. You'll find out where you want to head. So she did that for a couple of years. And then she decided she wanted to live on her own, and she went to Flagstaff. And she got a job there in a big truck stop restaurant. And she lived there she lived in a motel room with not much, a hot plate or something. But she could eat, you know, she could get food where she worked. But, so she worked there for about a year, and she was close, relatively close, to where her Grandpa Clemmy lived, down in Sedona. So we felt comfortable that if she had any trouble that she could call him. And then I think it was after that when she decided that, or as a result of that, that she needed to get on with business of her education. She was always wanting to do things on her own and take care of herself, pay for things herself. And she's always been a very thrifty person. So that's how she did. So
we heard about some of their childhood friends. Did you have like a good childhood friend growing up, or a best friend, or here when you moved here? Did you have any?
Well, yeah, we had a small as I've said, we had a very small high school. So my high school class from Steelville, which only went through 11th grade, was 15. They were all pretty much all friends. We did a lot of things, boys and girls together, and you know, it was just fun stuff. No hanky panky. Go somewhere and go for a picnic someday when guys could get a car. Nobody had a car then, so they had to be the parents' car, and so our activities were more going bowling or going to the movie, that sort of thing. We played some sports. We played softball, and well, like I said, bowling, and then that's about the most I remember.
Do you remember like a person, like a friend that you always...
Well, I told you about the one friend that I didn't act very nice to.
Oh, yeah.
But I think there were 8 girls and 7 boys, whatever. So I was the only girl that went on for further education. The rest stayed there. And the girls mostly were married within a couple of years after they got out of high school. One girl went to St. Louis to business school or something like that, and she only lasted a semester and came home. And her boyfriend of the time, at that time, went to seminary, and he only lasted a short time. And he ended up, I think he was a carpenter or something like that. And both of them were very, very smart. And they could have, academically, they could have succeeded. Culturally was the thing, that wasn't the culture in that town. And the two of them got married, I think about 2 years after they were out of high school. And they remained married for 60 years or so.
Wow.
And he died first. She stuck around, and the rest of the girls, all of them, maintained a close friendship, and they had, regular lunches together and that sort of thing. And I corresponded with 2 of them, mostly at Christmas time. And that was after I was finished and working. When I was in school, I didn't do anything with them. I would see them, I guess, when I went home for a weekend or something, but we weren't that close. But so that was the way it was in those days.
So my mom mentioned that you guys had party lines.
We did have a party line.
Can you explain what that is?
I can explain that.
Okay.
It was like all the telephone lines went into a central office. And have you ever seen Lily Tomlin when she does her telephone skit? Well, the telephone lines it would be like plugging in earphones to a phone, only they were about as big as your finger. And so somebody would call in on one line, plug went in there. They'd say who they wanted to talk to. Another plug would go in there, and then they would talk. But on each
So
of these
they
lines,
would go to an operator.
yeah,
Okay, and the operator would plug in.
Right.
yeah.
Okay.
And I worked as a telephone operator for a while when I was in school, when I was in high school. So, but on each of these lines, it connected to maybe 3 or 4 phones, and you could all be on the phone at the same time. So you had the potential of conference calling with your friends, and if somebody else wanted to get on the line, let's say some mother wanted to call something, and she'd get on and hear all these people chatting with each other, and she'd say, "Would you girls please hang up and let me make a call?" So that's what it was. Now, are you supposed to ask me what's a dial phone? Well, now these phones were that some of them sat on the table, some of them hung up on the wall, and the ones that hung up on the wall were like a black box, like a wood box. I mean, not black necessarily, and it had a couple of bells on it, and the cord, the earphone, was like a barbell, a little smaller on one end than the earpiece. So the phone would ring, and you would lift this barbell off a hook on the side, his cords hanging down, and this is how you talk. And there was a receiver that you spoke into on the box. I wonder if that toy phone is still back in the closet. I was thinking about that. We had a little green one, do you remember?
Yeah.
For the kids. But it's a round circle that's on top and has holes on it, like a pencil sharpener. The holes in a pencil sharpener. And I don't remember, I think it's just numbers from 1 to 9 and 0 to 9. So if it was usually 3 or 4 numbers, I think 4. So you would go 2, and then it would go back around. 4, 8, 8. And that would go directly to the office, the phone office, and you would ask for another number. Well, I'm not sure. I think I'm scrambling that up. But anyway, that's what you had to do. Now then there were desk phones, and the really old ones were on a base about like this. They had a pole, and then they had this basket or that the receiver hung on. And so you would pick that up, and then the dial was down on the place at the bottom. I've got a friend downstairs from where we live that has 2 of those that she had for a long, long time and were made into lamps. And she's got them in her apartment.
That's cool.
Yeah.
So if at some time ever you're back over there and you have a desire to see those, I can make sure you do that.